All right. Our next intern is Jonathan. He is studying nursing here at Queensborough. He wants to he plans on studying nursing here at Queensborough. And like many of his fellow interns, he's actually served as an intern here before. He was part of the Asian Social Justice internship last semester. And that's when I first met him. I saw his final presentation, and I was really impressed with it. His compassion, his desire to educate others about what he had learned, and his quest to get more involved in world affairs in general. For his final project in interviewing a comfort woman survivor, he expressed himself by writing a beautiful poem that was entitled The Long Wait. So I very much look forward to hearing his thoughts on this experience and about interviewing a Holocaust survivor. Jonathan interviewed survivor Hanne Liebmann, who was trying really hard to get here today. She had an appointment in Manhattan in the morning, and she was really trying to race. I wouldn't be surprised if she runs in at the end, but for now, let's hear from Jonathan.
Hello, I'm very nervous. The first thing I want to say is that I'm very grateful to be here. I don't deserve to be among you guys because I feel like I don't have as much of a fervous feeling in my heart as you do. I feel very out of place. I feel like I should always put more effort into what I do. But again, I'd like to thank Marissa and the department for letting me be here, regardless of any non-full effort I gave to this. Okay, so my survivor was Hanne, and I'm sorry she couldn't be here, but when I first met her, she was volunteering here because that's what she loves to do, and as a lot of survivors here love to do. We didn't start the interview until 10 minutes after I came because she was so focused on what she had to do here. And basically, once we sat down in this very room, she laid out a map for me. And that was the first time I started to become calm, because I knew that I would get the best explanation with this. And so she began to question me about my knowledge of the geography of Europe. And I told her that the only knowledge I knew was basically from a Tom Clancy book. And she told me that her husband loved Tom Clancy. So that was our first bonding moment. That's how I first remembered her. So this very brave woman was born on November of 2024. She was born in Germany, and around the border between France and Germany. And so she began by telling me that there were books being burned, Jewish books, of course. There were houses being raided, beds being thrown out of the window, and this reminded me of the book that Marissa gave to us called Frederick. In this book, a very brave and persevering boy tries to overcome the anti-Semitic comments that are...
There's friends for you. And he's here.
Can you sit down? I know. I'm gonna wait for Hanne.
She even sent me a letter just in case.
Hi, Jonathan. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Okay. Okay, here we are.
Okay, so I was just telling them how you were born in November of 1924, and you were born in Germany, right around the border of, you grew up right around the border of France and Germany.
Right.
Okay, so, as I was saying, beds were being thrown out of apartments, books were being burned, including medical books, tax books that were Jewish. And like I said before, Marissa gave us a book called Frederick, and there was this boy who tried to persevere in these harsh times. Now, things started going bad when the Nazi Party took over, and so hi, okay. Okay. So she barely had an education because the education was so limited. It was from kindergarten to fourth grade. That was elementary school, and then there was secondary school, which went from fifth to eighth grade, and that was that. And she only went to school 3 days a week, which is hardly enough for anyone. There was one summer. I gotta stop doing that. On November 10th, 1938, she began to receive these ID cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you receive ID cards on November 10th, 1938, right? And it had thumbprints and ear prints because apparently there were different, everyone has a different ear structure. So these were ways of identifying Jews and Germans. And please correct me if I'm wrong at any point. I really want to be as accurate as possible. Okay. So it was that summer that she was being excluded from things like public swimming pools, movie theaters, things like that. And so when she came back to school, her teacher asked her to write an essay about her summer, but how could she? She didn't really have a summer. She was excluded from everything. She was very deprived of fun. So it was ridiculous, and she wrote at least 2 sentences to this teacher, and she despised this teacher, as she has told me a few times. But regardless, it wasn't fair for her to ask that. Her teacher to ask that to the students. Now, things began to decline further into her time of, chaos. Trains started being boarded by Jewish people, including her grandmother, and her mother. Now, she had a brother, but he was already in America because he moved to New York and he received a scholarship for a school in Atlanta, Georgia. Yes, okay. And so, I'm really hungry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I just speak how I think. Okay, that's not good. And so, losing my train of thought. I know. Okay. So, she was being boarded with her family, with her 2 other relatives. First, her grandmother, which was very difficult for her grandmother because she was very, very old and she didn't have any more strength in her upper body. So she was trying to walk up the steps to the train, but she couldn't, and she was being mocked for basically being what she is, old. And I'm sorry if I'm offending. In any case, okay. So they boarded the train, and they moved all along the eastern part of France and moving towards the southern part. And they stopped at Lyon, which is right on the southeastern part of France, where the Nazis would disembark. Get off the train. after that, they would move towards the concentration camp of Gurs. Gurs, I was going to say that, I swear. But on their way there, her grandmother was suffering a lot because she was very tired, and it took them 3 days to get there. And so while this was going on, her grandmother was very hungry, as well as the other people, because the other people were very old. Hanne was one of the few young people on this train. And so, how do I explain this? Okay. 1 second. So they provided her grandmother with sleeping pills so that she would try to knock out permanently, but she didn't. She actually woke up the next morning and she had to suffer through a lot of agony and pain. So once they got to Gurs, they were separated, and Hanne was put into a barrack, which was very tight, and the conditions were very harsh. And in this camp, they only served half a pound of bread to all the people in each barrack. And this is hardly enough for anyone. But the thing is, these camps weren't that harsh. There were some good sides, but either way, it's not justifiable. And so they did. You're all familiar with the YMCA. It's actually it was actually pretty popular in these camps, and they received some yoga and other activities. There were also instruments, or quartets, I should say, that were playing in these camps as for entertainment. And she actually met her husband that way, and she would later find him in a camp. No, not a camp, a village up in Senchbon.
Sao Centro France.
Shangbon. There we go. And later, she would find herself in a village called in a village of the Huguenots. And these were amazing people because you can never stop talking about them. They were willing to give up their own privacy for her, in a way, because they were hiding her. And most of them were farmers, and so they hid her in barns, and she had to keep moving around because she couldn't stay in one place because of the raids. And later on, in the summer of 1942, she went back to Gurs, and she found that her mother was being transported. And she found her mother, and the last conversation she had with her mother was about where she was going. But her mother didn't know. But one thing she did know, and that was that it was going to be the last time she would ever see Hanne. That alone would tear me apart. I don't know where I'd be if I lost my mother that way.
What did you learn from him? What is the thing you want to take away?
The thing is, I actually want to be able to tell about these experiences, but at a more global level. I'm going to be honest with you. I think we're failing. We're failing because it's still going on. There's a lot of persecution, and Jews alone have been persecuted for 2,000 years, and for something that they shouldn't be blamed for. And it is religious. It is. It's probably one of the greatest arguments that, one of the most famous arguments that the Germans used against the Jews in order to persecute them fully. But what I want to take from Hanne is that I need to do more with my life. Because at the age of 18, I believe, she's already accomplished so much with her life. And I mean,
She survived.
she survived, yes. She's amazing. And I told my friends that, I told at least 5 of my friends about meeting a Holocaust survivor. I don't think anyone can fathom how amazing that is. It's like they're walking textbooks. I think Marissa has said that before. And I take that to heart. This is priceless, this experience.
Jonathan, you're very young. You try. He has his whole life ahead of him, and I'm at the end. Thank you. They can hear me. You tried to comprehend what is incomprehensible,
Absolutely.
the Holocaust. You have a lot of empathy for people. You told me you would like to go into nursing, right?
Right.
And it's exactly what you will need in that profession. So, I wish you the very best for the future, okay? And I hope you will achieve your goals, okay?